Welcome to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast with Darren Mitchell. If you're a sales leader looking to take your leadership to a whole new level, then this is the podcast for you. We'll be exploring tips, techniques, and strategies to help you take your leadership to the exceptional level and allow you to enjoy more money, more meaning, and better sales results. Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader Podcast. This is Darren Mitchell on what is a very, very cool Melbourne morning. And today I have the absolute pleasure of welcoming from the North American area of San Diego, where it's absolutely not cold because this man is sitting wearing a t-shirt. Look at that. Mr. Tony Morando, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Darren. Thanks for having me.
Mate, you are the Chief Sales Officer at World Emblem, and you run a global sales team. You've been in that business for many years, and we're going to talk a lot of things about sales and sales leadership, and hopefully help a lot of people listening to this improve their sales leadership and their capability, and hoping they can get to their team to be exceptional at what they do. Just before we were pressing record, you were telling me that it's quite warm over in San Diego. And I was sharing with you how it's about 8 degrees here in Melbourne, which is for the American fans, it's 46 degrees Fahrenheit. And you were saying it doesn't even get that cold in San Diego in winter.
It doesn't, man. I think the coldest we see typically is probably the low 60s. I think that's our cold winter nights. You might hit 50s once in a while, but it's
Wow.
typically pretty standard 70 degrees and sunny almost every day.
So are you saying, Tony, you don't necessarily need a puffer jacket or a jumper or a hoodie?
So ironically, I travel quite a bit and I end up going into these cold cities in the middle of winter and I don't have a jacket. So I tend to forget a jacket and I end up buying one every time I travel because I can't remember to bring one. So yes, we don't own any winter gear.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right, so let's talk about you. I'd love to delve into your background a little bit because you've been
Sure.
at World Emblem for a number of years. Really like to, for the benefit of the listeners, a bit of your background and what led you down this path, and particularly now being the chief of sales within the business. Where did it all start for you? And was sales something that was always in your DNA, or did it sort of just trip you up?
Great question. So I appreciate it. Actually, no. So I went to school for criminal justice, and the intent was to go and be a federal agent. And I was actually heavily involved with certain programs, federal programs when I was in college. Made it to final round interviews, and unfortunately, I did not pass a polygraph. Which
Oh, wow.
actually, in the States, if you don't pass a polygraph, you get cut immediately from the program. So at that point, that was post college. I really didn't know what I was going to do. And one of my good friends, who was a recruiter in the city of Boston, called me up and said, "Hey, I have this company that has this job. I think you'd be good for. It's a sales job." Which he's like, "You're personable, but you've never done sales, but I think you'd be good at it." And I did that for about a year and a half, 2 years, and I absolutely fell in love with sales. Everything about it, from cold calling to door knocking to closing deals. I mean, it reminded me a lot of athletics and sports,
Hmm.
which, I grew up playing sports since I was in the second grade, and I absolutely love it. So the competitiveness, the wanting to win, it all kind of fit really well with the sales aspect. Long story short, a couple years into that job at college, I ended up meeting the owners of World Emblem at a party in Miami. And that night, one of them offered me a job, and I've been with the company now 20 years later. So it's been
20
a
years.
wild, wild ride. Yes.
Well, isn't that interesting that you just happen to be there, and whether you believe in fate, stars aligning, or anything else, how a seemingly, probably at the time, innocuous meeting leads to a long-term career.
It does. It wasn't too random. One of my good friends that was working at World was a sales rep at the time. That's the reason I ended up going to Miami. He was a sales rep calling on the company that I was in Boston, right? And we became friends. He invited me down. I didn't know we were going to dinners with the owner that night, but that's what led us to kind of connecting and
Yeah.
talking, and we hit it off right away. And it's been a marriage ever since. I absolutely love what I do, love the company. When I started, it was a really small family business, and now we're a global powerhouse. We're the largest emblem manufacturer in the world, which is something really awesome to say. We took the company 10x over the last 15 years, so it continues to go at a pretty rapid pace.
Nice. So just on that, Tony, the thing that was attractive to you when you obviously were offered that position, that the
Yeah.
conversation you might have had, you would have created an impression to the owners for them to obviously extend an offer to you. But what was it that made you say yes to that? And as you reflect on the last 20 years of your career, what's kept you there?
Yeah, yeah. So I think I've never been one to shy away from opportunity, right? And it was a big change. At the time, I was covering a small territory. I had just moved actually to San Diego from Boston, and I was covering the city of San Diego with the current company or the company that I was at the time. And this was more of a regional, it was traveling opportunity. It was opening a market that hadn't been touched before. When I had started with World Emblem, it was really to open the Los Angeles market. We were going to build a factory there, and they had no sales representation. So that was really the most appealing thing. And the way that the owners carried themselves, very personable, very upfront. They were very blunt, and I loved the fact that they just said whatever. There was no filtering, which to me was exciting.
Love it, love it.
Yeah,
Because for some people they might be a little bit more precious in terms of their whether it be their ego or their self-esteem. So you've got to be careful how you frame certain things. So in 20 years, you found yourself starting or at least helping open the California region, and now you find yourself 20 years later being the chief sales officer. Can you describe, if you look back on that? I don't want to sound was this intentional, but if you look back on your career and how you've got yourself to the position where you are, where you're running the global sales team, you've 10x the business. Were there certain things that you did or certain changes you had to make that got you ready to take on the responsibility that comes with a chief sales officer role? Because you're now running a sales team, and at the end of
sure.
the day, all the fingers are pointing to you if we're not delivering the results.
Yeah, honestly, I think you're never ready, right? I'm still learning in this role. I've been in this role now almost 2 years, and I'm constantly learning, constantly realizing where my weakness is and seeking help to address that, right? So I think part of my success has always been the ability to ask questions, even to know where I was not strong in certain areas and to get help or get coaching to address those areas.
Mm.
I think a lot of people shy away from that, and I think that really kind of stops them from moving up the corporate ladder by not being able to seek help when they need it.
It's an interesting point because a lot of organizations I work with, I talk a lot about the importance of coaching. So,
Mm,
coaching sales leaders, but also coaching sales leaders to coach their team.
yeah,
And we know through research that coaching within sales organizations is often the biggest lever to draw out to extract high performance. And yet, for some reason, it is the first thing that's deprioritized or put to the side because either the sales leader doesn't know how to coach effectively or they can't see
no,
the immediate results.
sure.
So in your career, because it's also quite rare, from my experience, to have a salesperson who is very ambitious, who will proactively go and search for coaching and search for mentoring and
Yeah.
search for help. Um, what makes you different?
Again, I think it's just the wanting to win aspect, right? Again, it's the athletic background. It's growing up. Both of my parents were entrepreneurs. They both own their own businesses. I always talk about my mom having the gift of gab. She was a talker, and I think they really pushed me, my brother, and sister when we were little to never settle, right? To always kind of look for bigger, ambitious goals and to push ourselves. And that's carried with me for my entire life and in my career.
Mm. And so when you look at that, so obviously you've been promoted to the chief sales officer. You've been there for 2 years now. How big was the sales team that you were a part of? And
Yep.
if you look back, what was it? Was it something that you were actively striving for to one day run the sales organization and take accountability for the entire sales business, or was it something that was bestowed upon you because of the characteristics that you brought to the business?
I think it's a little bit of everything. So, I was in a leadership position prior to this role. I only had a team of probably about seven at the time.
Yeah.
And it was really presented, the business was going through a restructure. We had two senior VPs at the same time. We really didn't have anybody heading up marketing. We really just didn't have anybody as either a chief revenue officer or a chief sales officer. So we were missing a big chunk of the business because of that reason. What was happening was our CEO was having to step down and act as both the CEO and the chief revenue officer. So
Yeah.
honestly, I think it was a matter of timing. I mean, I've always wanted to, again, be ambitious and try something new and take risks. And I thought the role, the opportunity to help get the company to the next stage is something that's really appealing to me. I mean, we have really high ambitions now. We are a global leader in what we do, but we're nowhere near finished to where we want to go. So
Yeah.
it's a constant push and a constant a battle.
So with that, then Tony, you think about because we'll talk about accountability and how we drive ownership within sales, and it starts with I guess the sales leaders taking full
Yeah,
accountability for everything because it's all happening on our watch. If our sales team is
yeah,
not performing, it's not about pointing the finger at them. It's saying, hey, okay, what am I not doing to help facilitate higher performance? Um, if you think about accountability, and certainly in your role, um, how do you define accountability? What does accountability look like, particularly in your position? Because you've evolved into this role and going from running a team of seven to now running a global sales team of a number of a lot more than that. The accountability probably is a lot higher, but how would you
yeah.
describe it?
So accountability to me, it's, a lot of people think of accountability as punishment, right? If somebody's failing, they think that, a manager yelling at them or guiding them or coaching them is a punishment. Really, it's not. It's about developing people to get back on track when they see them kind of veering off left or right. So for me, it's really just accountability is making sure the team is guided and constantly achieving their goals or exceeding their goals.
And with that, so if you look at that, because a lot of sales organizations will have their sales leaders, whether it be the chief sales officer, sales directors, sales leaders, sales
Yeah,
managers, that and respectfully managing by absence. That is,
sure.
they spend their time sitting in an office. They spend their time navel gazing. They spend their time managing upwards. They spend their time forecasting, which means they don't spend their time with their team doing the things that we
Yeah.
know drives high performance, right? So how have you, I guess, managed the balance between having to keep the business running according to the expectations that have been set? So no doubt you've got really lofty goals, but
Sure.
also making sure that you're enabling the sales team and your people to be high performers.
So part of it is funny what you said is getting in this role. It's really learning to think more strategic. And that whole thing of not being in the field and being in the office, it's real because I struggle with this today. Prior I was probably traveling about 75% of the time. Now I'm about 25% of the time. 75% is really the strategic thinking and planning for 3 to 5 years out.
Yeah,
But I mean, really, it was being in the field and working with the team and working with the managers. A couple weeks ago, we just had our mid-year review, and I brought in all my leaders into San Diego for our mid-year meeting. And the conversation was, how often are you in the field with the reps? And everybody now is traveling probably 50 to 60% of the time. And really, it's just being in the field and learning and constantly understanding where the team may be needing help or where the weaknesses are and being able to coach them. So that's probably been the biggest change. And again, for my role, it's now it is the forecasting, it is the planning, it is how do you create self-management without micromanagement? How do you create leaders that are setting the tone, that are leading by example and not just dictating what they want?
yeah.
And that's really having the strong managers on the team and setting the example myself.
And how hard's that been for you, given that you've loved being out in the field, doing the do, knocking on doors, doing deals,
Ugh,
and now I guess put a different hat on and say, well, now my responsibility is to work on the business, not as much
no,
in the business.
no. It's been a struggle, and it still to this day is a struggle because I love spending time with the clients. I love spending time with my team, but the job and the role is completely different. I mean, the strategic thinking aspect of a chief sales officer or chief revenue officer is far beyond just managing a small team or selling to individual prospects. It's really constantly looking at the future and thinking where the business is going to go, and
Mm,
that mindset is it's definitely not an easy adjustment.
absolutely. Now, with all that, you mentioned before that you've got your sales leaders spending about 50% of the time out in the field.
Mm.
Is that something that you've intentionally created, knowing that? that's a lever for exceptional performance, or is that being just organically created based on the culture that's been developed over a period of time?
No, I think it's something that we've created over the last few years. We realize that we tend to get more done in the field, right? People tend to see, learn, adjust from the customers, and that's really kind of the focus. Is when we're traveling with reps, they're not selling products; they're selling solutions, right? They're trying to solve problems, and it's hard to do that from behind the desk, and it's hard for a manager to really understand unless they're sitting with one of the reps in the field, listening to the customer and adjusting the playbooks based on what they're hearing and seeing.
Hmm. And when you think about that, the customers that you deal with, obviously, you mentioned before the world's biggest emblem. Is it emblem manufacturer? Is that how you describe yourselves?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sir. Oh, thank you. I'll just. You guys in America are so polite.
We're keeping it toned down for the podcast. We're keeping it toned down. Yeah.
Man, if you say that, oh, sir, in Australia, it's like, oh, what have we done wrong? So I was going to talk about your customer in terms of is it a and I guess the focus of the business. You've got to continue
Mhm.
to expand, but have you got to the point now where the vast majority of your business comes from a set of existing customers that you're just expanding and building relationships with, or you're always looking for new emblems to continue to develop your expansion strategies?
It's a that's another great question. And really I'd say about 80% of the businesses probably run through the top 20% of the customers, right? Or even smaller. Maybe it's not the top 15%. Um, what we've done to address it is we have basically two teams, right? We have a retention team, which is a team of now about 12 reps, and their responsibility is account management and retention. They're not out selling new businesses. They're out there making sure they're taking care of the existing customers, visiting them on every single customer on a quarterly basis. That's something really we take pride in because
Yeah.
really no one else in our industry is doing that. So getting in front of the customers, solving their problems, listening, then we have a separate team, which is really our hunting team. That is our outside sales team. And they're not managing any existing business. All they're doing is hunting for new customers, new industries, and basically new targets to go after.
Yeah. And so with that, obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but I'd like to um, think that you've got a different set of characteristics that you're looking for in each of those. And you
Yeah.
mentioned that 80% of your business comes from 20% of your clients, which is the old
Yep.
Pareto principle playing out. So
Sure.
in a high-performing sales team, and you're obviously running an exceptional sales team, what are some of the key characteristics that you look for in both? So let's look at the retention side first, because we'll talk about client obsession.
Sure.
Are there specific characteristics that you look for in a person within the retention team that is then different to the characteristics that you look for in the hunting team? And what is that separation?
It is. It's the old farmer versus hunter mentality, right? So I don't know if you guys use that in Australia, but for
We
here in the
do.
States, it's a big thing. It's almost like offensive to some people because if you call a hunter, like we used to have a joke, we'd call certain hunters farmers, and they'd get so worked up and angry, and it would turn into almost fistfights because they didn't want to be called a farmer. But they absolutely have different mindsets, different personalities. To me, the big one is the outside sales team or just an outside salesperson, they're not afraid to ask for the business. They will continue to ask and they don't stop until they get it. A good salesperson will find a way
Yeah.
to get through the door and get something. Whereas, the retention team, if they're told no, they politely walk away and then they call back on the quarter. So to me, it's really just getting salespeople that understand that they need a hunt and they have you can know within a matter of 10, 15 minutes of talking to someone if they're a hunter or a farmer. I mean, after years of experience, I mean, to me, it kind of comes natural within talking to somebody, but um, it really is a unique characteristic. They're completely different on all levels.
It's interesting you mentioned before just then, well, just then, sometimes they're reluctant to ask for the sale or ask the question. It's
Sure.
staggering the number of salespeople that, for whatever reason, don't want to ask for the sale because I don't know, are they fearful of being told no? Are they thinking, oh my God, I've only got a finite number of customers, and if I get a no from here, it means there's less customers to go and talk to. So what will that mean for me? Um, it's how do you help people through that? Because you might have people in your business that have had some challenges around that.
Yeah.
How do you coach that? How do you support that encouraging people to say, to ask the questions, to challenge the customer,
Yeah.
to really believe in, you know what, we've got value to add and we've got specific solutions to solve problems here. And we would be
Mhm.
doing you guys a disservice if we didn't ask you to at least consider our proposals.
Yeah, so I think it's coaching and it's repetitive training, right? So objection handling in real time in front of team members and talking through it, it's something that's really uncomfortable, but it's also that getting comfortable with the uncomfortable is what
Yeah.
changes, I think, the behaviors of people in the field. So we had our national sales summit this past December in Mexico, and part of it was something we've never done before. So we had a group of about 50 people there, and we broke out into smaller groups, and we brought out camera crews, and we recorded people handling objections. And everybody thought they were so good, right? So everybody comes in like, I got this, no problem. Like I can handle this. So you got a group of 15 people, and two people are in center stage, and they're going back and forth, and we're recording it and you could see like people stumbling and you could start to realize that people are like, oh man, maybe I don't have it as good as I thought I did.
Yeah.
But then what we did is we took the videos and we replayed them over and over and over for about a month after with the team so they could catch what mistakes they made. And we talked about it as a group. And then we took the best performers, how they would handle objection, and we used that to write scripts and to write training manuals and to recoach over and over the right way versus the wrong way. And I think that's made some impact. But again, some people will pick it up. A true salesperson will learn to be quick on the spot and they'll learn how to kind of push when they need to be. And the farmers tend to back away, right? It's almost again, we talked about the attributes. When we hire for the farmers, we don't hire sales background at all.
Yeah.
We'll take anybody from industry as long as they have the correct personality and being able to talk and being understanding. Like we'll be able to coach, how to become a farmer. You cannot coach, in my mind, I don't think you can coach someone into a sales position that doesn't have it internally. And I've talked to other podcasts about this too. And it's just one of those things that we've tried over and over bringing people that don't have it. And we want to train them because maybe we like them, we thought they were a good person, but it never works out. And you end up having to replace them because they can't be successful.
And that's a great point you make, and I wanted to highlight that because there's so many sales leaders, and how I've got my hands up here, where we have hired people because the person, at least on the first meeting or the second meeting, has really resonated with us because we might have been the same behavior style, we might have been the same personality
Yeah.
type, and we just want this person to be successful. So we try to retrofit what we perceive to be their attributes that are positive into the role and just wish
Yeah.
that they'll be actually really good and give them the opportunity. But in actual fact, we're potentially setting them up for failure. And so this is why it's so important to think very specifically on what are the characteristics of the person that you need to fulfill that role and go and search for that. Now, there are certain people that are more, I guess, attuned to being the farmer versus the hunter. But
Yeah.
even with that, I mean, you could probably teach people to have a bit of a hybrid approach, and it's about getting out of their comfort zone, asking the harder questions, just having the courage, right? Because if you
Yeah.
firmly believe in the product and the solution, then why wouldn't you share that with your customers? Now, whether they end up buying or not, well, that's on them, right?
Sure.
So
Sure.
I love your thoughts on that, in particular around how do you build a high performing sales team where the pressure might be on to hit the results, but you've also got to marry up the client obsession part, the client retention, and as the chief sales officer, keeping an eye on the future of the business and not,
Yeah.
I guess, burning bridges with your customers.
Yeah, we made this mistake. So when I first started the company, we were opening up our California branch. We made this mistake. We went in with this whole East Coast mentality, and it's gonna be a hard sale. We're not gonna leave until we get a yes, and we're gonna force people to buy. And you know what? The West Coast didn't like that. They weren't like the mentality of the East and the West Coast is completely different. And we end up burning bridges, and we learned from it, and our approach completely changed from it. It went from being a hard sales to really, again, it's solving problems, understanding where the market was failing our customers within our industry, right?
Yeah.
Where our competitors weren't servicing them, we would step up to service them. Where our competitors wouldn't make changes to their technology, we went and made technology changes. Where our customers wouldn't travel, or our kind of competitors wouldn't travel and visit customers, we changed our philosophy. Said, all right, we're going to travel every quarter and visit every customer. And I think that was a big influence in part of our growth strategy.
Because that then leads to your client obsession and what sort of impressions you're creating, to your clients about, are you going to be here for the short term? Because the question out of what you just said is, um, could it be seen by others, not necessarily by
Mhm.
you, but could it be seen by others that emblems, right, on clothing is a commodity?
Yeah.
And your role as the chief sales officer is to say, okay, how do we create strategic advantage? What is our
Mhm.
unique selling proposition? What is the most valuable thing about us that's going to attract customers, not just to first do business with us in the first place, but to keep
Yeah.
coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. And I think you said part of it, it's you're probably your client retention strategy and your client obsession strategy to say, you know what, we're going to do what other competitors don't do, and we're going to be in the face of our customers on a regular basis because we care about them.
100%. So I think that's part of it. And really what we've leaned into, I think, over the years that's really separated us from anybody else and how you change it from being a commodity to a value added product or something that has something significant value that we offer that no one else is a technology aspect of it, right? Building platforms, integrations, ease of use, simplifying, designing, from ordering, from invoicing, from tracking, all these things that we've taken and built over the years have now put us light years ahead of anybody in the industry that does this.
Mhm.
So again, finding the ways that you can create the value add that makes you not a commodity.
And with that, I mean, looking at emblems, because pretty much any organization, any sporting organization, any school, even government departments would have some form of
Sure.
emblem. So, from
Yep.
your perspective, how deeply involved in, I guess, the life cycle of a customer do you get involved in? Is it you do the design or you're the fulfillment once the design has been done? How, I guess, how entrenched and where do you have your tentacles to the point where, because where we're getting to here is the stickiness. So how
Love
hard is
it.
it for
Yep.
customers to extract themselves from World Emblem should you
Sure.
not be performing?
It depends on the customer, right? So we have different tiers of customers. You have transactional customers that will buy a couple times a year, and then you have elite customers or enterprise customers that are buying every hour on the hour. I mean, they're buying nonstop. And the word you use that I love, the stickiness, we love that. We love getting it to the point where, we're so embedded with our customers so that they couldn't leave. Like that they rely on us because we're an extension of their company in reality, right?
Mm.
We're integrating through APIs. We're building platforms where artwork is seamlessly dropped from one platform to ours. We're doing the creation so their customers can sign off as quickly as possible. Then we're manufacturing. Then we're delivering it. Then we're having people show up on site to receive it with them. Then we're going on client visits with them. I mean, we're doing everything we possibly can to create the stickiness or the handcuffs as tight as possible. And it's not because we're doing it to make sure customers don't ever go. I mean, it's part of it, but it's really to show the value that we're a partner. We're really embedded to make sure that they're successful.
And that's the key word, I think, partner, because there's a lot of, and I was talking yesterday with an organization, and I was asking them because their business is pretty much dependent on a very large Australian retailer in
Mhm.
Australia. So and a huge percentage of their business comes through them. And I asked the question, does this particular organization see you guys as a supplier, or do they see you guys as a strategic partner? And the answer to that question will tell you a lot about the relationship and therefore the opportunities. And I said the other question to that is, how do you see that customer? Do you see them as a as a dictator? Do you see them as a partner? How do you see them? And the psychology behind that's really important because if you don't have some form of differentiation and you're delivering tangible value, which is in the eyes of the customer you're delivering to,
Yeah.
then it's going to be very easy for your competitors to knock you off. And what have they got
Yeah.
access to? Things like price, maybe delivery. All right. So the stickiness part is really important. So you mentioned before that APIs, integration with your customers, design, all that sort of stuff. If you look at the design to fulfillment, do you have all of that in-house, or do you have strategic partners that help you out along the way?
Great question as well. We are 100% fully integrated internally. So we don't outsource. We do everything. We have our own digitizers in-house. We've got 1 million square feet of manufacturing capability throughout North America. Everything. Our customer service, our accounting, finance, marketing, everything is internal. We don't outsource anything. And it allows us to control even our supply chain There are some things obviously we have to purchase to get the emblems manufactured and put out, but everything is within arm's reach. There's not like, we don't have to rely on the Asias to bring stuff in, and that's a huge advantage for us, especially in a global market where tariffs are going bonkers. For us to have everything so close, it gives us a huge selling advantage over decommoditizing the business.
And you mentioned before, Tony, that you've got some representatives in Europe, and World
Yes.
Emblem probably presupposes that you can provide to global clients. But from the bulk of the market that you've got, I guess being in North America, Canada, and Mexico, um, do you find that having a local representation and having the full control over the supply chain and delivery chain is that competitive advantage, or are there challenges with that with some of your customers?
It is 100% a competitive advantage, right? The fact that we're able to turn product in a matter of 24 hours versus somebody that has to wait 24 days,
Hmm.
it is a huge advantage to the marketplace, right? Now, where we run into situations is if there is a prospect that can wait a month for product, then sure, go to Asia and you can get it for half the price or whatever the price that they may be able to get it for. We're
Yep.
not competing in that market. That's not where we want to play. It's not our niche. Our niche is speed to market, customization of products turned within 3 to 5 business days. That's kind of our key. So huge advantage today.
And with that,
Yeah.
can you command I guess, a premium, for whatever better term, in the marketplace because of that speed to market, speed to response?
I think our pricing strategy has always been fair. I don't think we gouge the market by a chance. We're not, the same price as buying overseas, but we don't have to be, right? I mean, I think since we control the speed to market, we can also control the price, but we've always priced it fair and competitive enough that consumers, they're not going to have to pay 4 times the cost because we're producing it, right? It's going to be pennies different than what they would get it from overseas. So I think at that point, the pricing really doesn't become an issue, especially when you think about partners that are sitting on blank goods, blank garments that need to be decorated. The holding cost to hold something that's already decorated is significantly more than to hold a blank where they can use for a variety of different prospects or different customers. So
Yeah.
us to be able to customize a blank gives them a significant advantage of being able to turn the product faster without having to send inventory, which obviously there's a cost to that too.
And with that, then obviously the reliability that the customers have, knowing that you've got local representation and the speed to market, and if something goes wrong because it's a locally produced product with local representation, they're probably going to have a lot quicker response time than having to go to an international call center or going to
Yeah.
some anonymous Dropbox somewhere and just wishing that hopefully somebody's going to see this and they'll respond to me.
It is, and everything is speed. Amazon changed the world for everybody. Like anybody that's buying product today, Amazon now has given everybody the expectation that they need product within 24 hours. Now, it's
Yeah.
not always the case. I mean, if you're buying something that's blank, that's one thing, but every single thing that we produce is customized, and we'll produce, a million emblems a day that are always customized, 100% customized. None of that is stock goods. So when you think about that, there are days where we'll get product in at noon that have to ship at 2. So we might have 2 hours to
Wow.
literally take the artwork, create it, produce it, QC it, package it, and get it on the truck to be shipped out within that window, which is a very tight time frame. And even with that being said, we still run about a 99.8% OTP, which is on time performance, which is unheard of for anybody doing what we do.
And that itself could be a differentiation in the hands of your salespeople to say, hey, reliability and what is this worth to a customer in terms of savings, reputation, comfort, whatever the case might be.
Yeah,
Two
I mean,
hours
you
is
think
just extraordinary. 2 hours.
it,
And
it,
did you
it
say 2 hours to do the design, manufacture, packaging, and begin the
all of it,
distribution?
all of it, all
So
of it.
literally a whole life cycle from, hey, we need this, we don't know what sort of design. Yeah, no worries, we'll do this in 2 hours.
Yeah,
Come
all of
on.
it. Now, I mean, obviously, we try to keep within, 5 days is kind of our start to stop finish, but a lot of times with our products, people are calling because it's an event-driven, order, right? So let's say somebody has a show that they're going to be doing on Monday. We'll get an order today that has to ship tomorrow, so they have the product in hand by Monday to go to the show. So a lot of that, but it's also nice because customers at that point are willing to pay a premium because they can't get the product anywhere else, and they don't want to show up at an event without the decorated goods. So again, it puts us in a really unique situation where we have the ability to kind of control the price, and we have the ability to control the market, but we also have the ability to serve the customer. And I think that's more important than anything. They're able to get what they want within the time frame
Yeah.
that they need.
Yeah, there, absolutely. Now, there's a question I wanted to ask you about that in terms of,
Yeah,
and it comes to setting the precedent, setting the expectation in terms of, do we have then conversations with these customers to say, hey, see what we've been able to deliver, but I don't want you to understand and believe that this is the standard form of response time, right?
it,
You've got to give us
every
more time, guys.
every day. It cannot be the expectation that everything is turned that time. Now we'll go above and beyond to help somebody once in a while, but we always set the turn like, hey, this is not our standard turn times. We're doing this to help you out. And it's also, we talked about learning to evolve into leadership roles. It was learning to say no. Like I, as a sales rep, never wanted to say no to any order to any customer.
Yeah,
As I've moved up in the business, I've learned there's just some customers that are just not good. They don't
yeah.
fit the model, or they don't, they're not good payers. And, I never really cared about that as a sales rep. Back then, I just wanted to sell and close the deal and move on. Now I'm thinking long term, well, is it a good customer? Do they fit our model? Do they fit the partner that we're looking for? Right. And it's really multiple things that kind of fit into that. But learning to say no is, I think, probably the most challenging thing as a leader to learn as a young leader.
And with that, because it's a great point you make, and more sales teams need to learn to say no, because the mindset behind that needs to be that there's an abundance of potential customers out there, right? So it's just not a
Sure.
finite piece of the pie, but you've got to be really selective in terms of which customers do you want to work with, which customers fit the mold of our ideal customer profile, and let's go
Yeah.
after those. How do you do that into training? How do you put that into training? How do you train your sales leaders and your sales teams to, I guess, have the appetite to be able to say no, have the willingness to say no, where
Yeah.
ultimately they're measured by the targets that you set. And
Yeah.
you're no doubt having the quarterly reviews, the monthly reviews, and if they're behind their target, they say, hey guys, you've got to put your gap strategy in place and close out. But at
Yeah.
the same time, we want you only to be attracting the customers that fit into our ideal customer profile. How hard is that to do?
It is extremely hard. And even today, we're still not good at it. I think most of the reps learn to say no after they burn their own bridge once, right? So meaning that they promise, they overpromise something in an event and they can't deliver, or there's some things that we just don't have control. We're pretty comfortable in terms of our ability to control the manufacturing, the artwork, and shipping out, but things like the carrier, if FedEx or UPS or the carrier gets stuck,
Yeah,
or customs or whatever it may be, and we miss the event, it takes just one of those. Then our sales team realized, oh man, we should, we need to buy an extra day or 2 days just to build some comfort there. And anytime that there is something like that, one of those event-driven orders where we think that something could fail or it doesn't really fit our model, we're pretty upfront with the customer, letting them know there is a chance that it will not be delivered because of things we can't control.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good point. And I think more sales leaders can learn from that you know what, every single customer is not going to be the perfect customer.
Yeah.
Probably similar to the fact that you're going to have 80% of your revenue coming from 20% of your reps. You're probably getting 80% of your revenue coming from 20% of your customers, but then you look at those 20% of the customers, are they good customers? Are they
Yeah.
great customers? Are they not so great customers? Because
Sure.
you got to be really, really conscious of that. Um, what I wanted to also cover with you is you've got a sales team, and you mentioned before you've got a team in Europe that you don't directly manage, but you've got
Yep.
representation in obviously across North America, Canada, and Mexico. Out of COVID, a lot of organizations were forced into a hybrid model, which did a couple of things. One, it, I guess, expanded the talent pool that organizations could draw upon, which meant that, hey,
Hmm.
we can look for good people in different regions, not just locally, but also meant that the way that sales teams operated and the way that sales leaders operated changed and probably has changed forever. So, love your thoughts on building and maintaining a high performance sales team that is quite either hybrid or remote, even though you
Sure.
still travel. But how do we do that in an organization that still has to deliver numbers, still has expectations, but you can't be everywhere every day?
Sure. So we have fully embraced the remote model, right? And it's tough because there are days where you want people in the offices. I'm remote myself. Our corporate office is in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I'm based in San Diego. I have reps in Mexico, Los Angeles, Chicago, Toronto, South Florida, the Carolinas. I mean, people are spread all over the place. And one of the things that we've done is we've really clarified people's roles and responsibilities, and that's important that people understand what we're expecting from them. So we made that crystal clear. We've incorporated something called a daily huddle, and a daily huddle is even though everybody's remote, doesn't matter what time zone you're in, everybody gets up and they join a morning call. And it's a quick 15-minute call that allows everybody to check in and just talk about, hey, what was your biggest win from yesterday? What's the one thing that you have to do today to be successful? And that honestly, I mean, that has been probably the biggest game changer. And it sucked at first. Nobody wanted to do it. Yeah, people were afraid to talk. And what it did, it created kind of, the best practice sharing. It also learned, you don't want to be the guy who doesn't have anything to share, right? So you kind of dig deep to like make sure you're prepared for the calls. And the culture now has become, you can ask for help if you're stuck on something, if you made a mistake, if you couldn't close a deal, the whole team kind of chimes in. We got, the average call is probably about 10 people on a call because the teams are split out. We don't do the entire team, but we'll do our outside team, our service team, our inside team, our customer service team.
Yep.
Everybody has their own group calls for the day. And then we have our leadership call as well. And it really has created just a better atmosphere for people to share and learn. And also, I think it's cameras have to be on, so it's not optional. So we mandate that cameras on so people can see each other. And it's something silly like something else we struggle, right? People are like, oh man, it's 6 in the morning. I gotta put my camera on. Then you realize like, all right, it's pretty cool to see everybody and what they're doing and like just to see the faces. We know we can't be together every single day or every single month in person, but a remote quick call like that, it just really sets the tone for the day. And I think that's really helped the culture of our team. And honestly, we don't turn reps over often. So our tenure is excellent. We're in the process of expanding the team, and what we're now is starting to bring in Gen Z. So we're bringing the next generation of younger guys into the business, and that's been really interesting because, technology they embrace completely. So they love this stuff. They're like, oh
Yep.
man, team calls, like videos, this is great. Meanwhile, we have some of the older generations like, I gotta be on the camera again. Like it's interesting. But that environment and that simple call has really kind of created a uniformity amongst the team, even though we're separated by, three different countries.
And that's a daily 50-minute huddle.
Yeah. Just 15 minutes, quick little huddle.
Love it.
And we try
Love it.
not to go over it. We don't extend it. If people tend to go off the rails and start talking about something else,
Yeah.
we'll just stop it right away and say, guys, hey, take it offline or have a separate call. Like we just make sure we're quick in and out.
Yeah.
Everybody touches base. If somebody has questions, they can always connect after the call. But everybody gets to see each other and hear a quick story and share something. Or if there's anything company wide that we want to share, we'll drive the call as well.
That's such a powerful thing to do. It's also really easy to do, but it's also easy
Yeah,
not to do. So
yeah,
the fact that you've got some ground rules around that, and I love the fact you said cameras on because, mate, I'm
uh,
staggered at the number of organizations that when I say to them, hey, when you run your Teams meetings or your Zoom meetings, what are your ground rules? For example, do you have your cameras on? No.
yeah.
What if you don't have a laptop with a camera? I said, well, you've got a smartphone. Turn your friggin' smartphone on. There's no excuse.
There's no excuse, man. Once the excuses start, then it becomes trouble, especially if they're doing it in front of a large group. But yeah, I tell you, in the beginning, it was tough. People still, you gotta remind them, hey, even today, like somebody will join the call if their camera's off. The team knows, like, hey, man, or please put your camera on. Like everybody knows to ask. So the nice thing, it's not coming from me. It's not coming from the leaders. The team is holding themselves accountable, which is the best part of this thing. Like,
That's it. That's it. And,
yeah,
and if you can't be in all places at once physically, you can be all places at once in a 15-minute call each day, which means you continue to build that connection. And when people
yeah,
feel as if even because if they're fully remote and you mentioned all the different states and all the different areas that you got
yeah,
reps in, they can't necessarily go and have a coffee like they could if they're in a corporate office. They just go downstairs to the coffee shop. You've got to have
yeah,
that level of connection, and doing it daily means that hey, I can share challenges, and I love the fact you're doing the wins and the lessons, or the
yeah,
things the themes you want to work on. because you might have a day where you've just been knocking on doors or you've been having some challenging conversations for whatever reason we didn't deliver on time or the customer's got an issue, and you can think, shit, am I the only person? But when you hear that
Yeah.
others are doing the same thing, you can now share that and say, oh, I'm part of this team. It's not just me experiencing this, which means, hey, I'm now going to be feeling a lot better and a lot more part of the fabric of the business.
Yeah, it's interesting. So on our executive level, our format's a little bit different. So rather than start with just our win, our priority for today, we start with our problems. What are you stuck at, or what problems are you having that we need as a group to help each other solve? And
Yeah.
that has really changed it because before people were really afraid to share issues or things they're stuck with. Now we've changed the culture where let's start with that. Like, hey, everybody's going to share a problem. So you're not the only one stuck. Like everybody can help. And you have people from all different departments kind of chiming in to kind of help coach and get you through whatever you're stuck on.
Yeah.
But it's something we've started with the top to really learn from, and I think we're going to kind of push it down through all the other teams as well because it really has changed the mentality. You don't have to be afraid to say you're stuck or you're having an issue.
Well, just on that, Tony, how challenging was that in the early phases? Because you might have obviously lots of different personality styles, dare I say, lots of different egos, and
Yep,
some people saying, well, I can't share a problem because that might be a reflection on me. What was the
sure.
catalyst for that? Did you have the CEO? Was it you that said, hey, I've got this problem and I'm going to share it and put it out there to say, guys, I don't have the answer for this. I need help. And was that how you started? Was a catalyst or was it something else?
It was something else. So our CEO is a an industry expert. He's been around for a long time, and he brought into the business the true lean model, right? The business model, and that's become part of our culture. And as that culture, one of the things that we drive is problem solving from the bottom up, right? Not from the top down. And part of that is identifying the problems and being comfortable with asking for help when you're stuck on something.
Yeah.
So we started with a team, and really it wasn't even an option. Our CEO was very clear. This is how we're going to format the call. You're going to have to bring your problem. Everybody has a problem, no matter how good you think you are. There's a problem in the business that we need to solve. So everybody always brings a problem. Now you could be working the same problem for a week long. That's fine because you may have not solved it within a week, but every day you better come with a problem and how you're working it and work as a group to kind of solve it.
Mm, love it. Because what you're doing there is you're setting the example from the top and you're almost saying, guys, it's okay to have problems. What's not okay is to keep the problems to yourself, hoping that they're just going to fix themselves.
Yeah, yeah, they're not going to go away.
No. And I guess the cliche there, which is quite true, is the problem shared is also a problem halved. Because if I can tap into the intelligence that exists within the team, chances are people might have a completely out of the box form of thinking that could just be the element that we need to solve this problem, but then solves some greater problems that we're going to be faced moving forward.
100%. It's something like, I've learned this over the last couple of years, just sitting with the other leaders of the businesses. The way that I think as a sales guy is completely different than how the operations thinks, or HR, or finance, or marketing, or a CEO.
Yeah.
Everybody has kind of a different perspective on the business or how to handle certain things. But as a group, when we start to really throw stuff, and some of the conversations get really heated. I mean, to the point where it's almost uncomfortable, but they're good because it really pulls something out of everybody. Like you have to dig deeper and realize that like you don't know all the answers, and anybody that thinks they do know all the answers probably doesn't belong in the team. But as a group, the seven or eight of us will be able to solve the problem.
And so talk about that a little bit in terms of conversations could be heated. There might be arguments, but if we hear, and people might have heard of the Patrick Lencioni five dysfunctions of a team, where there's a
Hmm.
lack of trust, there's a fear of conflict. But when there's a
Yep.
bedrock of trust, there's an encouragement of robust conversation and diverse thinking, diverse ideas, respectful arguments.
Yep.
How do you think that has had an impact on the culture? And has that led to, I guess, because you said you've got a good retention rate of, on average, of over 8 years in a
Yep.
high turnover sort of industry. Do you
Yep.
think that sort of environment has been a catalyst to say, you know what, this is a good place to be. We've got a good culture. I can be myself and I can challenge people, irrespective of who they are, and it's not going to be personal. So it's not people hanging on to their positions, their titles, their beliefs. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, we need to improve these ideas.
I think for the most part, individual teams probably feel that way. But I think where you run into some walls is where individual teams probably conflict with other teams, right? It's that cross-functional piece that we're still really kind of working on because, sales and operations, there's always a nice kind of battle there, a push and take. And I think the team is getting more comfortable with those uncomfortable conversations. And I think it has brought some walls down, but I don't think it's perfect yet. I think there's still quite a ways we have to go to create more of a cross-functional problem solving and understand that you're going to have arguments with different groups and it's okay, but at the end of the day is get over it and learn from it and move on. Like you don't hold on to it. So
Yeah, well, it's not personal, right? So we're
it's not
all
personal.
we all
Yeah.
have we all have different views. We all have different potential values, and this is why we're a culture, right? Because you're going to have people with different perspectives, and that's exactly what you want. The worst thing you can have, as you know, Tony, is a one-dimensional team because you're
Yeah.
going to have one way, and that is potentially plateauing and off the cliff. You need to have difference. You need to have diversity. So with that, obviously you're still in the evolving stage, even though you're a very successful organization. What's the next, 2 to 3 years look like? Are you looking to further disrupt the marketplace? Are you looking at taking on more technology advances? How does AI play out? And what's I guess, the vision for the business over the next couple of years?
I love this one too. So yes, we're constantly evolving, and I said earlier we're just getting started. We're not even close to where we want to be. So there's going to be some pretty large disruptors that we're bringing. We just finished our first acquisition, so we acquired a company by the name of Heroes Pride, which was a strategic company that got us into the military and law enforcement sector, which fits in great with the products that we offer. So it was
Yeah,
a marriage meant to be. So I think, acquisitions are going to continue to be on the table as we continue to grow. I think that's going to be part of our strategic plan. Also technology. You mentioned AI. AI is going to be a significant disruptor within our business as well as the entire industry. And,
mm,
we jumped into this thing, probably a year and a half ago. I won't tell you the amount of money that we're spending on AI right now, but I will say that we're investing extreme amounts of money into leaning into this from a couple different perspectives. One is a designing aspect, right? Our customers, if you've played around with Grok or Chat GBT or any of these applications, you're seeing that they're getting faster and faster with generative artwork, right? So you could
yeah,
upload an image, you could tell it to do something, all of a sudden it will create something back. For our industry, that is everything. Being able to
yeah,
create artwork on the fly rather than have to wait 24 to 48 hours completely changes the game. For
yeah,
anybody that's within the decoration or artwork apparel side of the business, that is going to disrupt everything. And we're pretty far along with there. So we'll be releasing some things in the near future that I think will turn the industry upside down. And I think we'll be one of the first ones to bring it to market. So that's really, really exciting. But also using AI every day within our teams, meaning that, when we're recruiting, we're specifically looking now for people that are actively using AI, and we're waiting to hear those conversations during the interviews because, everybody's scared that AI is going to replace jobs. And I'm sure you've heard this, everybody's talking about it, but it's
yeah.
honestly, it's only going to replace the people who are not using AI. Like in sales, we have no intent of firing somebody because of an AI going to replace them, but we will, get rid of somebody that's not learning how to use the application or tying it back to their everyday work. And, I've been using it now, probably for 50% of my work, there's some sort of AI functionality tied into it. For things as simply as, hey, summarizing a data sheet that would take me a week to do, I can literally do now in 15 seconds. So
Yeah.
the advancements that are coming, it's absolutely insane. And we, again, that summit that I told you about earlier, last December in Mexico, we brought in a group of AI specialists that wanted to talk to the group as a sales team, and it really floored everybody. I mean, I think everybody's hearing the buzzword AI, 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 but once they started hearing and seeing the visual of where it is now versus where it's going to be 12 months from now, I think people were scared. Like they didn't
Yeah.
realize how fast and how big of a disruptor it truly is. So,
Yeah.
as a business, we're going to continue to lean into AI very heavily. From a product portfolio, we're constantly developing new products. So again, when we look 3 years out, the business model will be similar, but it's going to be significantly involved technology and from a product portfolio.
Which is going to create opportunities because speed to market, attention to detail, fulfillment. You're still going to have people because
Yep.
ultimately people still want to do business with people. But the use of technology and the leverage of technology, if we're not using it, we'll simply be left behind. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, I agree. And
Yeah,
same thing with businesses. I mean, if any businesses we see today that are not incorporating, they may not be around in a year or 2 years from now. I mean, it's
that's
just
it.
it's moving that fast, which is wild. But I'm happy that I work for a company in ownership that believes strongly in it because it's forcing the whole business to embrace it and not be afraid of it.
Yeah, yeah, brilliant,
Yeah.
mate. This has been a phenomenal conversation. I know it's just on 5 o'clock for you now, so you probably need a. You've moved from a coffee. You probably need to get a. What's
Happy
your?
hour.
Well,
Happy
it's
hour.
happy hour. I was going to say, is there a Budweiser or something coming?
I'm sure there is. I'm sure. I'm looking at the kitchen now. It's on the counter. So
Awesome. So, Tony, thanks a lot for being on the podcast. For people who want to learn more about you, connect with you, and follow up from this conversation and learn a bit more about World Emblem and what you guys do, where's the best place for them to do that?
yeah, so you can actually find me on worldemblem.com, which is our corporate website, or simply Tony Morando on LinkedIn. You'll find me there as well. And I'll make sure I pass along my contact information to you as well.
Cool. I'll put that in the show notes. Mate, thank you so
Awesome.
much. Been a phenomenal conversation. Keep up the awesome work. And I'm sure there's more acquisitions along the path. And yeah, I look forward to staying connected with you. Thanks again for being a guest on the podcast.
I appreciate it, Darren. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, mate.
All right, take care.
Thank you for listening to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast. I trust the information in this episode has been helpful in your journey towards becoming exceptional. And remember, please take the time to rate the show, subscribe to the show so other people can find it. But also, if I can help you, jump on my calendar, go to leadwithdarren.com and let's have a conversation about how I can help you along your journey to being exceptional.